Alright, and welcome back to another episode of Terror Talk. In this video, I will be doing the second story of the True Ski Trip Horror Stories. And I thought this story was pretty cool because it does have a supernatural element to it. But before I go into the video, be sure to check the first link in the description below if you want to save money on your car insurance and other utility bills, because it's a great program that helps people save as much as possible. So let's get into it.
Whenever I was scared as a kid, my dad had always told me in life that you should not be scared of ghosts, fear the living, because they can actually hurt you. In my late teenage years, I came into some money after my father committed suicide and I received an inheritance from him. At the time of my death,
It is sad that his father committed suicide, and one of the thoughts that I had with that, with the comment at the beginning of the video, is that you should be afraid of people because they can hurt you. That sounds like something with someone that has mental issues might say. But then again, I think a lot of people feel that way. That was just something that came to mind. So it's just kind of sad that the guy's dad committed suicide.
Dad's passing, he and my mom owned a cabin up in Oregon by Mount Bachelor. The cabin had been put up for sale since my mom could no longer afford the payments, and renting it out was not covering the payments either. The cabin was set to go on the market for sale in less than a month, and was in the process of finalizing all the paperwork with the realtor and lawyer. So for that month's time, the cabin was not going to be rented out any longer and was just going to be vacant. I saw this as a chance to get away for a while and clear my head in light of all the things going on. I quit work, packed up my snowboarding gear, grabbed my dog Midnight, and headed up in my dad's car to the cabin.
Midnight is an awesome name for a dog, by the way, just wanted to say.
My first 2 days at the cabin were normal, and nothing out of the ordinary happened. I spent my days playing with Midnight in the snow and snowboarding, and the evenings playing PlayStation or listening to music, drinking and smoking out on the balcony. I had already stocked up on food, cigarettes, and liquor, so I was pretty much a shut-in, aside from the occasional out to hit the slopes. With my dog as company and DVDs, PlayStations as entertainment, I was quite content, and started to...
I think it's really good that he had his dog up there, because being in an isolated cabin like that, up alone, in the woods where it's just bleak white snow, that would get pretty depressing, I would think, just being up there all alone with no company. So dogs can provide just as much company as people.
feel relaxed after all the drama that had preceded my outing. The cabin itself was 2 stories. The bottom story had the living room and a side guest bedroom, along with a small kitchen. Upstairs had another 2 rooms, along with a walkout balcony attached to the master bedroom. Most of my time was spent either in the living room, kitchen, or master bedroom. I never ventured into the other rooms, and always kept the doors leading into them shut. The 3rd day came around, and I was going through my usual routine of playing with my dog, playing games, and watching DVDs. That day it was a pretty heavy snowfall, so instead of hitting the slopes, I stayed in. That's when things started getting a bit weird. In our area, there were only 2 other cabins adjacent to ours, maybe a block away from each other. All other cabins aside from these 2 were around a mile away from ours. Surrounding us was mostly forest and very tall pine trees. Both these cabins were empty, and from the past...
I'm not sure I would like being up there, even with a dog or a person, something that's that isolated. I don't know, there's just something very creepy about it, and especially during a lot of snow like that. It's just, it has a creepy vibe in my opinion.
couple of days, I knew that no one was currently staying there. Around midday, while outside with my dog, I noticed what looked like footprints in the snow around the area surrounding our cabin. It was still snowing, so the footprints looked semi-fresh, like someone had just been there in the last 20 to 30 minutes before me. I thought that maybe someone was staying in the cabin near me that I may not have noticed. Maybe they were shut-ins like me. Alright, whatever. The footprints led away from my cabin, and they disappeared in the snow towards the denser part of the trees.
He's right to be thinking this way, because when you see random footprints like that in the snow, out in the middle of nowhere, it kind of raises concern a little bit. Am I right? Like, wouldn't some red flags be going off in your head?
I disregarded the footprints and went back inside. Nighttime came around, and I decided to head to bed. My dog Midnight was laying on the bed with me when I noticed his ears perk up to a listening position. This was followed by him quickly jumping off the bed and running downstairs to the living room. I lay in the bed and stayed silent. I was honestly freaked out, and I could hear him moving around downstairs back and forth. After around 5 minutes, he ran back upstairs to me and started to do his doggy dance for the sign that he had to pee or that he wanted to go outside. Shit, well fine, I can't say no to him, so we both went downstairs to the outside driveway for him to do his thing. Only he didn't want to pee. As soon as we were outside, he started to pull his leash, trying to drag me to where he wanted to go. He kept looking into the dense part of the trees where the prints had been earlier, but he also kept sniffing the side of the house and looking up towards the roof. After he figured out that I was not going to go where he wanted, he sat himself down and just stared into the darkness. A bit unusual for him, but all right.
I'm really glad the guy didn't have the common sense to go into the dark woods, because that would have been really frickin' stupid.
Maybe there's some forest animals out there that he wants to chase down. But fuck this, I didn't want to chase anything, so I pulled him back inside and we both headed back upstairs. Around half an hour later, I was lying in my bed when I heard what sounded like hooves walking on my roof. It was only a series of around 6 steps, and I rationalized that it could be a pine cone falling from a tree onto the roof, or maybe a kind-hearted forest animal running around. But here's the thing.
Now notice that he said hooves and not feet. There's a big difference there, because hooves implies that it's an animal and not a person. Like, why would there be a person walking up on the roof that late at night? Because it would be really hard to get up there, in my opinion, with all the snow and the slippery ice that's on the roof. It would be really hard to walk up there for a person.
The steps seemed to be spaced apart like a man-length stride, so it was really freaking me out. Midnight also heard the noise and was quick to run to the balcony screen door, expecting for me to let him out. All right, you know what? I'm a tough guy, and at the time, I considered myself to be fairly well built and strong enough to handle myself. So I grabbed my coat and shoes along with my cigarettes and flashlight and went out onto the balcony. As soon as I went outside, I lit up my cigarette and started canvassing the roof with my light. Nothing there, and the snow on top was undisturbed. Weird. Was it all in my head? What about Midnight hearing the noise? Maybe he was feeding off my paranoia. I started to calm down and relax again. My eyes started to adjust to the darkness, and I kept smoking and just staring at the stars and trees next to our cabin. That's when I saw it. In a tree that was a little taller than our cabin and around 20 feet from the balcony, I saw what looked like a man crouched in a squatting position in between 2 branches. It looked really tall, like 8 or 9 feet, and it was really fucking skinny. It was squatted on one branch, and its freakishly long, white arms were extended above its head, holding onto the branch above it, while its mouth was wide open with no expression. What the fuck is that?
Alright, if I saw anything like this, I would be absolutely terrified. And in the comments of the original video of Mr. Nightmare, people were either saying that it was a Wendigo or a Skinwalker, and so if you don't know what either of those things are, I'll explain it real quick, because there are differences between the two. So, a Skinwalker is basically a creature from Navajo folklore, and they're basically shapeshifters that can shift into any animal. And it said sometimes that they can shift into anything, like, I don't know, like, maybe they can shift into different types of people, I really don't know. But they're basically shapeshifters, and they were people that practiced witchcraft and black magic, so that is what a Skinwalker is. Now, I keep wanting to say rake. I don't know why I keep wanting to say rake, but it's also another mythological being. But the Wendigo, from my understanding, is a supernatural creature that eats people, and they're basically cannibalistic. And so the folklore behind that is that they were once people, and well, how did they become such an evil demonic thing? Well, some say that they cannibalized other people, and slowly over time they became the creature, or an evil spirit turned them into a Wendigo. Um, Sometimes they even say that greed turns people into a Wendigo, but I don't know, that sounds a little bit far fetched. But do I believe in any of these things? Yeah, I think that they can definitely possibly be real. And I actually have a coworker who works out on a farm who says that she's seen skinwalker type things around there. But I think in this case it's definitely a Wendigo because from my research it says that it lives in really cold forest climates, and this is exactly what that sounds like. And another thing about a Wendigo is that it's often said to have antlers. Now, this guy didn't say he saw antlers on it, but I think that it was probably most likely a Wendigo, whether it had antlers or not, because maybe there are Wendigos out there that don't have antlers, and you know how folklore is and legends, they get passed down and distorted and stuff like that from all the generations and stuff like that. So those are my thoughts. I really think that it is a Wendigo that he saw, which is absolutely terrifying.
I wasn't sure if I was really seeing this thing, and stood just staring and sat there motionless. I noticed Midnight stand up and start pacing behind me and lightly barking at the same time. The thing still did not move. I put my cigarette out and was debating on shining the light in the thing's direction, but something in my head kept screaming not to. So I walked backwards to the inside of the room.
You should always listen to your instincts in these situations too. If something tells you not to, then don't, because who knows, if he had shined the light at that thing, it might have just went ballistic and just leaped at him from across the tree, from across that yard, and attacked him and ate him, because the thing is stalking him and it wants to eat him. That's what Wendigos do, they eat people. So it's really good that they didn't it's really good that he didn't shine the light at it, in my opinion.
And pulled Midnight with me. Once inside, I locked the door and shined the light in the thing's direction, but there was nothing there. I shut the curtains to the screen door and retreated back to bed. But later on in the night, I heard some light tapping at the screen door, like someone was tapping on the glass with their fingers. It was consistent and did not stop for nearly an hour. Midnight seemed to stare at the door, but he wouldn't go near it anymore.
An hour is a very long time to be tapping at someone's window. Whatever he saw, that thing wasn't human.
The weirdest part was that I had a feeling like someone was inviting me to open that door. But at the same time, I kept hearing my dad's voice in my head, telling me to stay in bed and don't do it. I listened to my dad's voice and just stayed where I was. I passed out eventually and woke up in the morning. It didn't take me long to pack everything and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, so I think it's really cool at the end how he heard his dad's voice in his head like that. And I definitely feel that, there is an afterlife, not to get religious or anything, but I definitely believe in an afterlife, and I think that our loved ones do visit us in some way or another after they die. And so it's really good that he didn't open the door, because that thing was waiting to eat him. I definitely think he would have died if he had opened the door. So, yeah, definitely I think this is a terrifying story, and I think that are Wendigos real? Maybe. It's hard to say, but I think anything has the potential to be real. The question is it? And now I think skinwalkers have definitely a more possibility to be real, because I personally believe in black magic and witchcraft and all that. I think that is something that definitely exists, and I'm staying the hell away from it. But yeah, so this was definitely a scary story, and I hope you enjoyed my narration and thoughts. See you in the next episode.